Previewing the College Station Regional with Locked On SEC's Chris Gordy. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. So thrilled to have my buddy Chris Gordy on. He comes from Locked On SEC. He will take on how he'll let us know how good A&M has been this season. The pressure on the team not getting out of the regional round last year, went to the College World Series a couple years ago and trying to get back there. And obviously, they're actually, a couple of days ago, they were actually the betting favorite to win the whole thing. Let's get to it. He is Chris Gordy from Locked On SEC. Let's preview the College Station Regional on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, Dave Schultz back again with another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Thrilled to have Chris Gordy on. He hosts Locked On SEC. We will preview the College Station Regional. Cajuns heading that way, hosted by the Texas A&M Aggies. And I got to say, Chris, is my anti-A&M stance is well known, but this is one of the better teams that they've had. They were the betting favorite as of, I believe, Tuesday to win the national championship, although Tennessee is the number one seed. Your thoughts overall before we get into specifics about the Texas A&M Aggies this season?
Yeah, I mean they've got Jim Schlossnagle's a hell of a coach. I mean he's done a great job since he's gotten there, and they kind of took the league by storm his first year there, and kind of got settled in, and already had a trip to Omaha, and now here they are sitting as a top 3 seed in the country, where expectations are through the roof there, and a lot of people expecting them to at least get to a super regional, if not get back to Omaha. And a big reason why, the pitching staff has been, it's been great in some aspects. It's been not so great in others. I think Justin Lampkin and Tanner Jones are two guys that, when they got into conference play, the ERA started to balloon a little bit, but Ryan Prager's been awesome all year. 2.51 ERA, and then the offense has been really, really good. It's a team with 5 or 6 guys batting above 300 and driving in a lot of runs and hitting a lot of home runs. And so, yeah, it's this is a really good team, and it's got all the imprints of a traditional Jim Schlossnagle coach team. And yeah, they're one of the betting favorites for a reason.
So we'll get into this quickly. Do they is there a hole in their lineup? Do they struggle against righties or lefties? Is the power from the left side? So do they struggle against lefties, or are they just really balanced throughout?
They're pretty balanced. I mean, there's been games where their bullpen has not been able to close, hang on to leads and things like that. So, they've had those issues, but just the offensive firepower. I mean, they can come at you in so many different ways, and a lot of upperclassmen, a lot of juniors and seniors on this roster of guys that just know how to produce in big moments.
Talking to Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC on Locked On Sunbelt, previewing the College Station Regional. So is there pressure on them to get it done this year? Obviously, what do we got? The top 3 seeds are all SEC, right? Tennessee, Kentucky, and A&M. You said, hopefully they get to the Super Regional. It would be, I would think, an upset if they don't. I think that the Cajuns can compete, but we'll get into that later. How much pressure is on A&M to get back to Omaha, being a highly ranked national seed? That would seem to be, I don't want to say cakewalk, but obviously they're heavily favored, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, in this team, you look at what they did. Last year they fell short. I mean, they went 38-27, but they lost in the regional round, and that was a big step back from getting to the College World Series. Like I said, Schloss's first year in 2022. So, yeah, I mean, the 44-13 overall. The expectation is yes, that they absolutely should get back to the College World Series. And again, you're one of the top seeds for a reason. Bluebell Park is a tough place to play. It's going to be hot. The Cajuns won't have a problem with that, but you just look around the field and, it's all teams that are regionally, Texas is used to it. Grambling's used to it as well. So, you would think that that won't play a factor. It's always fun though. Sometimes you get in that super regional round. I remember years ago being at LSU and they had, they bring in Pepperdine or they bring in, somebody from the West Coast, Cal Poly or something like that. And they come in, those teams are just like, what is this humidity? And they start like cramping up and, that sort of thing. And it's advantage LSU. So I don't know if the Aggies will have much of an advantage of that in College Station, because I think everybody being regionally from the South won't really play a factor. But Bluebell Park can get loud, man. And when that train is passing at the right time and, they do the thing where when they get a strikeout, they show the old black and white clip of, I forget what it is, the gunslinger or something, where it's the guy with the pistol. But it can be an intimidating place to play, and I think those fans are going to show up and show out.
Let's talk about the Heat for a second. They decided to play Grambling at noon. I presume they had the choice for the first game when they wanted to play. It is going to be really hot, whether you're used to it or not. I presume Schlossnagle is going to try and get, he's going to try and get a lot of guys into that ball game because it's still going to be hot, whether you're used to it or not. And it really hasn't been this hot yet this season. It just started to heat up over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches like to, especially when you're home hosting the regional, you like to get that first game out of the way. And yeah, you play during the day and it's going to be hot and all that, but you like to just kind of get it done and then know where you stand, and know, okay, we won there. We're on the winner side of the bracket and let's move on. And then, what you usually like to do is get that primetime game Saturday night. You like to get that night game Saturday and, play in the winner's bracket and kind of, go from there. So I guess that's their thinking on how this thing shakes out. But, the advantage for Cajun fans is you end up, with a later game on Friday. So, maybe that'll help your fan base a little bit. But look, Austin's not a far drive from College Station. It's only a couple hours. So there's gonna be a lot of Texas fans making that trip. I wonder if there'll be any divided with Texas softball going to the Women's College World Series. How many fans will be making that trip up to Oklahoma City as opposed to being in Bryan College Station? But yeah, I loved it when they announced all the regionals. When I saw the teams in this one, I just loved it because I said, man, the storylines it's set up. The Cajuns are always a tough out. And, on the flip side, if it does end up a rematch with Texas and Texas A&M, that's a rivalry renewed here with Texas coming to the SEC here, later this summer. So, yeah, I just think this is a really, really fun regional to watch.
You do make an interesting point. The Cajuns fans are going to have a lot of friends when they're taking on the Longhorns in College Station. That's going to feel like a road game for the Texas Longhorns. That just hit me when you brought that up. I don't know why it didn't hit me beforehand. But obviously all the A&M fans, unless they want to play Texas, which I'm sure they do, but they won't have any problem if Texas wants to lose first.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. I just made the drive from Baton Rouge to Houston last week and, stopped off in Lafayette, and it's not a tough drive. To go from Lafayette to Houston is only about 3 hours. And so, from there, it's about another hour up northwest to College Station. So it's really not a bad drive. And I'd expect a lot of Cajun fans to be bringing out the tailgating and setting up shop over there in College Station this weekend.
He is Chris Gordy, Locked On SECs, driving through Lafayette and doesn't let me know.
Gas. I got gas. You want to come meet me at the gas station?
I would have. All right. So how do you think the Aggies handle the Friday game? Are they going with an ace? How deep is the starting rotation? Do they try to mesh it together to hold back? How do they attack game one against Grambling? Because the one thing Grambling can do is actually hit. So that the hitting isn't an issue for Grambling. The pitching is the issue for Grambling.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see because I'm trying to think of what they did in the SEC tournament. I want to say that Mississippi State game, they went bullpen game. I think it was Brad Rudis started that game, and then they saved Prager for the next game, and he went in the one against Tennessee, and they ended up losing both those games. So I really don't know how. They're healthy. Everybody's rested, well rested, and ready to go. So I don't know how they're gonna approach this. It's interesting. There's always that debate when you're a top seed and you're hosting at home. Do you burn your ace in game one to assure victory, to assure you put yourself in the driver's seat in the winner's bracket, or do you say our team should be good enough to beat Grambling that we don't need to burn our best guy there? Let's go bullpen. Let's win that game. Again, the problem with that logic is you lose and suddenly you're trying to come from behind and you're having to beat a Louisiana or a Texas multiple times, and it becomes you put the burden on yourself. So I think there's always an argument both ways, but it does seem like some coaches now, and we saw Jay Johnson do it last year. They threw Paul Skeens at LSU there early game Friday. Everybody's like, what the hell are you doing? And the thought is we're not deep enough to lose a game and come out of the, have to win multiple games on the losers bracket. We need to put ourselves in the driver's seat. So we'll see what Schloss does. My inclination though would be that he would maybe save Prager for that Saturday start, knowing you're going to face either a really good, ULL or Texas team. But that would be my inclination. And the thought is you can go either bullpen by committee or your number 2, number 3 guy against Grambling.
That's the thing about that LSU team. At the time, they really didn't, didn't have that issue. They really didn't know who was going to be the 2 and 3 starters. And by the time, a few weeks later went on, they obviously had all that pitching depth. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, I will tell Chris about the Ragin. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's take a time. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, I'll discuss Louisiana Ragin Cajuns baseball with Chris Gordy. Will they pitch to Kyle DeBarge? And who's pitching and in what order for the Cajuns? We'll do that when we come back, after I tell you about Gametime tickets. Gametime makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. To tell you that I had a great experience with Gametime would be an understatement. We surprised my nephew getting Game 6 tickets for the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Knicks. We had a great time. Pacers won that game. That probably made it better. But we had a great time. It was easy to do. And I used all of these things in terms of all-in pricing. Saw what the total was. There were no surprise fees. I saw where I was sitting. We were up high, but we got to see it, and it's exactly as advertised. And don't forget about the Gametime ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's get the Cajuns' point of view. We basically recap the Cajun season, talk about Kyle DeBarge and the pitching options that the Cajuns have going into the College Station Regional against the Longhorns and then potentially against the Texas A&M Aggies. Let's get back to it. He's Chris Gordy from Locked On SEC. It's Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.
All right, continue on here on Locked On SEC. We're taking a look at some of the regionals going on this weekend. And joining us now to talk all about it is our buddy Dave Schultz, host of Locked On Sunbelt. And Dave, as we look at this regional in College Station, the Texas A&M Aggies playing host to the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, along with the Texas Longhorns and Grambling. A really good Ragin Cajuns team that is always seemed to be a tough out for everybody when it comes to postseason baseball. Give me a general thought on what you've seen from this Cajuns team this year.
Well, it's been an interesting season. Certainly been entertaining, Chris. You know, they started out really slow. They were 9-8, rattled off a 16-game winning streak, won 21-22 before they ran into a little bit of trouble at Coastal Carolina on the road, at Troy on the road. Then they sweep Georgia Southern. Then towards the end of the year, their shortstop, Kyle DeBarge, just kept on getting pitched to with runners in scoring position. Coastal Carolina, I think Georgia Southern did it with the game on the line. I think Coastal Carolina did it with the game on the line. Southern Miss did it twice with the game on the line. And, he was the preseason Sun Belt Player of the Year. He ends up winning that, sets the record for most home runs as a Cajun with 21 in a single season. He's had a phenomenal season. It'll be interesting to see how, the Texases and the Aggies, if that's who they get, and Grambling deal with pitching to Kyle DeBarge with runners on base. He's only 5'9", $170, but he packs a punch in the right-hander batter's box. The pitching at one point in time was phenomenal for the Cajuns. Obviously, you're not going to win 16 in a row and 21 out of 22 without that. But Andrew Herman, the Friday night starter for so long, did not pitch in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. LP Langevin, the pitcher of the year in the Sun Belt, has gone his last 5 Sun Belt outings. He's got an 8 ERA. In his previous 10 Sun Belt outings, he had a .7 ERA. So I don't know if he's tired or whatever the case is. He has struck out 40% of the batters that he's faced. So we'll see what happens there. Chase Morgan, the freshman of the year in the conference, he's really good. He can bring it a little bit more than Andrew Herman. Herman's going 85 to 87 with, off-speed stuff and breaking ball, whereas Morgan can pump it past you if you're not sitting on it. And then you got Carson Fluno, who only took a no-hitter into the 8th inning earlier this year. So if the Cajuns pitching is there, and that's how it's going to be, that's how they're going to win. They're not going to smoke the baseball around by a lot of guys all the time. Different guys have stepped up throughout the season. It's mostly been Kyle DeBarge, and then, John Taylor will be there. Duncan Pastore will be there. Trey LaFleur will be there. Caleb Steadley will have a big ball game. Jose Torres, the catcher, has had a way above expectation season. But if the Cajuns are going to compete, it's going to be Herman, Morgan, Fluno, Langevin, and then a David Christie or a Blake Marshall or a Blake McGehee out of the pen. It's going to be the pitching that carries the Cajuns to a regional victory if they're going to do it.
Yeah, it always seems like it's got to be pitching. It's hard to win those 12 to 11 type shootouts in a regional. It's always a guy that comes along and pitches a gem and is just rolling. And a lot of times these home teams don't know what to do. I think back to Auburn a year ago. They're a home seed and get upset. I think I want to say it was Penn. They lose the first game out of the gates, and just always the Cajuns always seem like that team that can give you fits. I know they lost in the regional round last year, the last 2 years, I believe. But go back to less than 10 years ago, Tony Robichaux, they get to the Supers twice in once in 2014 and 2015. So this is a team that if you don't take them seriously, could certainly jump up on you. Tell me a little bit about the Cajun faithful. Are they planning to travel and make the trip out to College Station? Because a lot of room around there outside Olson Field at Bluebell Park to get the tailgating going, which I know the Lafayette folks enjoy to do.
Certainly. I believe they are. And I'm sure there are a lot of, Cajun alum that are in the Houston area to begin with. So I don't think they'll be short of the red and white in College Station. A couple things that you mentioned. So a good couple of examples, right? The Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, when they won the national championship, a couple of guys in the super regional against LSU had rubber arms. Some guys just stepped up. Last year in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, Blake Marshall stood on his head, beating Coastal Carolina twice, just kept on going out there and getting him out. And who's going to be that person this year? Will it be Marshall? Will it be McGehee? Will it be David Christie? Will one of the starters, the two starters, Morgan and Fluno didn't go 4 innings in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. So it'll be interesting to see, who can step up in that realm. I think Cajun fans think they can compete. I also know they have lost in College Station before, and that was a while ago. And they also are not under any illusion that A&M isn't, they're good. They know that. And so they know the situation that they're in. And I don't know if you're going to need a break or two, but the Cajuns are going to have to play to their potential. And I mean, I don't know if you can hope for a mistake or two. It's not like football where you can, force a turnover or something like that, or basketball where you can hit a three or something, or get hot from deep. You're going to have to take any kind of advantage that you have to take. And one of the things the Cajuns do, and, it's really hard to defend, is the double squeeze. So if they get runners on at second and third with less than 2 outs, obviously, they will try and lay down a squeeze and score 2 runs. They just did it against JMU in the Sun Belt Conference Tournament, although they lost that game. And it is hard to defend, and it catches teams by surprise all the time. Now, I don't know how to defend it, but it's a really thrilling thing. The first time I saw it, Gordy, was Alabama. They did it against Alabama here in that 2014 season. I'm like, did I just see what I think I saw? Two run score on a squeeze play, and you get that ball down, and it tends to work because the runner from second base it's like a hit and run with a squeeze play. It's crazy. All right, let's take one more time out. When we come back, we'll do regional picks. Actually, Chris asks me who I think may have the best shot to advance out of the Sun Belt teams. If you've been paying attention, but we'll let Chris and the SEC crew know as well. We'll do that right after this. All right, again, special thanks. We're almost up to 1,250 subscribers. We are rocking and rolling. I mean, if we get, the goal is 1,500 by August 31st. All right, to me, that's the first week of college football. All right, so that's going to take 250 over the next 3 months. But if we get 50 each month, boy, we're just a little short. But why can't we get, what do we got to get? What is that? 75, 80, almost 85 subscribers per month. I think we can do it. All right. So we got football coming up. It's only 2 months away. We got media days. We'll be covering it all. Please subscribe and see if you can help us get to the drive for 1,500. Really do appreciate it. You guys are the best. We'll hopefully continue. If someone gets through to the Super Regional and God forbid they get to the College World Series, we got a full month of baseball. Didn't go well for softball. Let's hope it can go well for baseball. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. 1,250. It's like almost 1,000 since last year. So we're rocking and rolling. Please subscribe and like and share all those social media things that you see when I do post it from the episodes. All right. Thanks again. Really appreciate it. All right. Now back to the show. All right, wrapping things up, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Locked On SEC's Chris Gordy hopped on, and we previewed the Aggies. We previewed the Cajuns, and he asks me, who do I think is going to win out of all those 4 Sunbelt teams? Who's got the best chance of advancing?
It's so interesting because I always wonder, with teams when you talk about, peaking at the right time, and do you want to be peaking come conference tournament time, but we've seen teams go to and barbecue in their conference tournament and then make a run through their regional to super regional and get to Omaha. So you never know, but it is interesting to look at the A&M team that just a couple weeks ago they're playing Georgia. They're 38-5. They take the first 2 games of that series, 15-5 in conference, and then from there they lose the third game in the Georgia set. Then they go on to lose series against LSU, against Ole Miss. And then they were in a tough barn burner series with Arkansas, and then the bats unload on Arkansas in Game 3 of that series, and they win in 7 innings. But then they go to Hoover in the SEC tournament, and they're 2 and done. They lose to Mississippi State, and they lose to Tennessee, and that's that. So I never know, when is the right time to be peaking, and what's A&M's attitude coming into this regional as a top 3 seed, a top 3 host site. You win this, you're hosting a super regional in College Station, but what's your feeling coming out of Hoover? What's your motivation? Where are you? And it's always interesting when you put a strong rival like Texas into this regional.
Sure.
I got to think the Aggies are going to be rooting hard for the Cajuns on Friday night so that they get the Cajuns on Saturday. They don't. I got to think they don't. If they can avoid facing the Longhorns, they prefer to do that.
Well, as we mentioned, it'll come down to pitching. And in the Sun Belt Conference Tournament, it was interesting that both Morgan and Fluno, I mean, everyone's going to go on short rest for the most part, right? They did get a bye, so everyone's going to go on short rest. But in this case, they went on extremely short rest with, instead of, it's normally 6 days, right, in college baseball, but sometimes short rest is 5. But in this case, they just went on 4 days rest. Well, now neither team is dealing with that because both teams, went two and done. And so, the Cajuns can try and mix things up. Do they do Herman, the soft throwing lefty, or Morgan, the harder throwing lefty? I was told that LP Langevin, the hard throwing righty out of the pen, pitches better when he comes in behind Andrew Herman because they are two completely different pitchers compared to if he comes in behind Morgan or Fluno. So, the pitching is still up for debate. I asked you about the Aggies. I don't know what the Cajuns are going to do because they have all options open, right? Everybody is incredibly well rested. Herman hasn't pitched for a couple of weeks. Morgan and Fluno only pitched a couple of innings, but that was Wednesday and Thursday. So everyone is, I don't want to say over-rested. So like you said, the Cajuns, Deggs, who formerly coached for A&M, right, was an assistant coach there before coming over here and then going to Sam Houston and now back with the Cajuns. He's like, it's not impossible until somebody does it. So we'll see. They know the task at hand is going to be difficult. One would think if the Aggies play up to their potential, they're going to win it with that offense. But all you need to do, especially in baseball, is, keep it going, kind of like upsetting in football, right? The longer it goes and the longer you're either in the lead or the other team struggling offensively, which we would not think would be the case with the Aggies. But if somehow the Cajuns can get really good pitching and the Aggies get a little tight the later the game goes, then all of a sudden maybe they are not, so to speak, trusting the process due to the pressure of, what is before them now, because they're expected, I'm sure they're fully expected to get to Omaha as a number 3 seed.
One more for you, talking with Dave Schultz here, covering Locked On Sunbelt, and 4 Sunbelt teams making the postseason, and ironically, all with SEC teams in their crosshairs. James Madison goes to the Raleigh Regional, and South Carolina will be there. We got Coastal Carolina heading to Clemson, where Vanderbilt will be. Southern Miss will head into the Knoxville Regional, of course, with Tennessee. And like we talked about, Louisiana heading to College Station in the A&M Regional. If I just asked you on the surface, Dave, forget matchups. If one team of those 4 were to come out and pull the upset in one of these regionals, who would it be? Who's impressed you most all season long?
Well, I'll give that to you here in a second. But it was odd, and I know this has to do with the pods and the regional system, but every ACC team, number 1 seed, got an SEC number 2 seed. All the SEC number 1 seeds got a Power 5 number 2 seed. Whatever, take that for what it's worth, all right? And Southern Miss, who came into the conference tournament with the best RPI, wins the conference tournament, doesn't lose a game. They get the worst 2 seed in America going to Knoxville, taking on Tennessee. Which there's a little bit of fun with that. That happened last year with the Super Regional, and there's no Applebee's, and that was a great social media content for a good week. But for Southern Miss and the Cajuns to pull upsets is going to be a big upset. All right. Can they do it? Sure. Are those major upsets? Yes. The best chance to win is going to be JMU. I don't know how JMU, gets the 3 seed in that Raleigh Regional, and that's going to be easier for them, although they got to go through South Carolina to get to NC State. But that's easier than Southern Miss trying to go through Tennessee. And Coastal Carolina, if they can put it all together, they got a bunch of bats. That lineup, and they are the killer bees. If that lineup gets going, it is an unstoppable lineup. They aren't playing at home, which is a fortuitous ballpark. I would tell you, and it is about the matchups, I would tell you JMU has the best chance to win a regional because of who is in it. And the 2 best teams, the regular season champ, the Cajuns, and the Sun Belt Conference tournament champ, have their work cut out for them in a big way. As Tony Robichaux used to say, it is what it is.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. All the action gets underway Friday, and we'll be watching it all, and can't wait to see what teams come out and punch their tickets to the Super Regional. He is Dave Schultz, host of Locked On Sunbelt.
Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC, joining us for a regional edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I appreciate it, Gordy. I'm going to remember driving through Houston that you didn't stop and say hi to me in Lafayette. I'm just going to let you know. All right. No special gift for you this time, Gordy.
Well, next time I'll hit the road a little bit earlier. We can grab lunch or something.